everybody, and welcome back to the Married with Baseball podcast. I'm your host, Brian Logan, along with my better half, Ashley Logan. How are you doing, sweetie?
I'm all right.
This week, we've had a great week in baseball again. Of course, every week is a great week when you're dealing with baseball. Well, let's get started. Bryce Harper made his return from Tommy John surgery.
Yes, he did.
Harper had surgery on his elbow November 23rd of 2022. He had put off the surgery due to the Phillies being in the World Series. At the time, the Phillies were saying that Harper would make his return after the All-Star break. But on April 15th of 2023, he started working out with the team and taking batting practice, and he would return to action on May 2nd in Los Angeles.
Fast return.
Very fast return. It's the fastest return to the field in the history of Tommy John surgery, where that night he went 1 for 4 with a run scored. And also, Harper had to slide feet first into home, which is extremely dangerous with the surgery.
I bet.
But everything was fine, and he did okay. He hit his first home run back on 5-6 against the Red Sox. Down 5-2, Bryce landed a 396-foot home run at 106.6 mile per hour off the bat with a launch angle of 25 degrees.
That's amazing. That surgery must have done something right?
Well, yeah, it used to be that, when you had that injury, you were pretty much done with baseball. You were completely out.
Right.
But now the surgery, they're coming back stronger than ever.
Well, medical, you can. Because anything medical nowadays, they know how to do it bigger and better. They're more thorough with the surgeries. You've got the laser surgeries now, smaller incisions, the workouts after the surgery. You can come back better.
That's right. Medical science has advanced, and this Tommy John's has become commonplace now.
Yes.
So it's not so much a career-ending sentence, now that it's, where they're at with modern medicine.
Right.
But it's fair to say that Bryce is right. 164 days after his surgery, he made his return.
That's amazing.
That is incredible. I mean, 164 days to going from, you can't even move your elbow to, back hitting home runs.
Right.
I mean, that is just
I bet
incredible.
His doctor is very proud of him.
Well, it makes me wonder if, the doctor was, of course he was okay with it, but was he supportive, or was this Bryce saying, I got to get back? I
don't know. That's a good question.
It is, and only Bryce and his doctor would know, but, he's come back, and he's helping the Phillies, and the Phillies, they needed him.
Well, of course they need him. He's Bryce Harper.
So we wish him all the luck. It is a sad day here at the podcast because one of my favorite players passed away this past week.
Yeah, one of mine too. We had just discussed him last podcast, I believe.
I think so. Yeah. Vida Blue passed away on May 6th, and he was born on July 28th, 1949, and he was a left-handed pitcher from 1969 to 1986.
He was an amazing pitcher.
Yes, he was. He was part of the Oakland Athletic dynasty that won 3 consecutive championships from 1972 to 1974. He won the Cy Young Award and the MVP Award in 1971 and was a 6-time All-Star.
Yeah.
He was one of the only 5 pitchers in Major League history to start an All-Star game for both the American League and the National League.
Right. And he was one of those pitchers that mesmerize you when they pitch. I mean, I don't know if I'm the only person in the world that does this, but like there are certain pitchers that when I watch them and once I get down their cadence, they're mesmerizing. Kyle Hendricks is one for me. I love watching Kyle pitch. The way the ball floats in there, and I mean, it amazes me.
Yeah, certain pitchers have a rhythm that you can get into the rhythm
Yes.
with them. And I don't want to say zone out, but almost just take the ride with them.
Right.
So his career was not all accolades. He had a problem with Mr. Finley of the Athletics. They clashed over his salary, which generated the saying "Free Vida Blue," which was a big thing when I was a kid. Ended up with a 6-10 record that year with a 2.80 ERA in 1972. They finally settled out at $63,000.
Wow.
Imagine
a whole
that.
63,000.
Yes. So Free Vida Blue was a big deal. And one of my heroes for sure. He will be missed, and
Most definitely.
And I loved him very much. Moving on, your buddy Max Scherzer. So I have an article here. I'm going to try to read as much of this as I can. Basically, he is commenting on the pitch clock, and he's saying that pitchers we're going to start seeing them get hurt more often now because of the pitch clock. So this, I'm guessing this is his retort for getting caught cheating.
Right, but here's the question. That's a good point in a way that pitchers might get hurt because we're rushing them.
Well, that's true. It says here in the article that Scherzer was quoted as saying there's a time component now. In a runner's anthology, it would be trying to run the foul poles with longer rest intervals. Cut the rest to 15 and see how that feels. So he's saying it's like running foul pole to foul pole and then cut the rest in half.
Right.
And that there's a level of concern for the health and that the pace may be too much for pitchers.
I can kind of see that in a way. I mean, I understand this is his retort for getting caught. He obviously can't keep up with the pitch clock. So let's just say that straight out. But he is right. We are rushing pitchers, which makes their bodies move faster, which could cause more injuries. I can see his point on that. If you're not able to think about what you're going to do and you just throw willy-nilly really quick, you could throw your arm out.
Well, that's true. And in the minor leagues have been using the pitch clock a lot more frequently. They used it for years before this became something in Major League.
Right.
So those guys are probably used to the timing wise, the speed of having the intervals, if you will.
Right.
But it's the older guys that are going to have the problem. Those are the guys that haven't been in the minors for a while, that are pitching on a regular basis, and
that have never had to deal with a clock.
Right. And there is no evidence yet of what the long-term or short-term injury or effect, that's the word I'm looking for, on all of this.
Right.
So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see. He does make a good point, but it is the timing of his statement was very convenient.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you just get caught with substances on your hands that you're putting on the ball and on your hat or wherever it was, and now you're coming out against the pitch clock. Put two and two together, obviously he can't keep up with the clock. And, they say he's very animated and opinionated, and he gets angry easily. So that doesn't surprise me that he came out with this the way he did.
Well, he went on to say that what's the worst case scenario? Pitchers start dropping. The injury bug is going to be coming across the league. Get in shape. Don't let it be you. That was his final statement in this article to The Athletic.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens in the long run, but I hate that it came from him and it was so convenient for him to say this now. But I can see a point with that. I was thinking about the pitch clock the other night. Jim DeShays was talking about how, do you have time to think through your pitch?
Right.
And know where you want to put it.
Right.
And that's a good question. Are we rushing them to the point that they can't get in their cadence? They can't throw the ball as accurate as they would if they had a moment to think and prepare. Are they going to throw really quick, back to back and throw out an arm? I mean, we just don't know yet, and only time will tell.
Well, and that was one of the arguments I had made on other podcasts, that when I first heard about this was it's going to throw the rhythm of the game off. And
Absolutely.
And then I had said in previous episodes of this podcast that I like it, that it speeds up the game and it makes it more exciting. But, at what cost?
At what cost is exactly right.
Yeah.
And we won't know. Anything like this that you don't know what the effects are going to be. It could be 10, 20 years. It could be 2 years. It could be, look how long it took them to figure out that certain things cause cancer.
Right.
What they did back in the 50s, now we're told not to do. And that was forever ago. So we're talking 70, 75 years. So what is this going to do in another 10 years? Are we going to find out that pitchers are getting hurt more often? What's going to happen?
Right. And that's something that we'll take a look at. And also, hopefully Major League Baseball will be keeping a real close eye on that.
They should.
But I think the pitch clock is here to stay. Regardless of what comes out, I don't think they're going to say next season that we're done with the pitch clock.
No, I agree. And, it might take, even if the injuries start and we find out that that's what's causing it, it doesn't mean the MLB will stop it.
Well, that's true. They may not even acknowledge it at all. Who knows with these organizations, if they pick up more viewers and more attendance at the ballpark because that they think it's the pitch clock adding to
more money,
they're going to stay with it without a doubt.
Absolutely. And the concussions with football, they hid that for a really long time.
Oh, absolutely.
MLB might hide the fact that pitchers are getting hurt due to the clock. They'll blame it on something else and everything else before they'll blame it on that.
Right. Well, hopefully it won't be a contributing factor the way he says. Hopefully that it's just normal wear and tear on the pitchers, and that we won't have this being a huge effect.
Let's hope so.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about the Baltimore Orioles. They are another team playing above expectations, and they're doing well, but their pitching is inconsistent.
You got to have the pitching.
In Kansas City versus the Royals, they struggled, but in Atlanta versus the Braves, they pitched very well. And you would think that it would have been the other way around because of the quality of the Royals and the quality of the Braves.
Right.
But Tyler Wells, Kyle Gibson, Grayson Rodriguez have all been giving up too many runs, way too many runs.
Well, you can't do that.
No, you can't. However, on the other side, offensive-wise, Anthony Stander
Santander.
Santander, okay. Totally botched that up completely. Thank goodness I don't have to spell it. The right fielder turned it up for the Braves series, hitting .444 in that set. 2 home runs in game 2, and the tying hit in game 3.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I didn't get to watch this game. I was working, but this guy, that's wonderful.
Well, the offense is there and the pitching is there sometimes. They're playing way better than they're supposed to be playing. They're 23-13. They're a contender right now.
Right.
And that AL East division is just incredible. It's just a hard division. Everybody's playing good. Even the Yankees, who are in 5th place, are still playing pretty well. Everybody in there, but the Rays.
It's a powerhouse. That division is a powerhouse.
Absolutely, it is, and I think it's going to be a war of attrition with those guys. That who can stay, and we say it every week, who can stay healthy.
Right.
During the longest time to get to October.
Right, because it looks like the Orioles are 23-13.
Yes, they're 23-13, and they're playing great ball.
That's wonderful. And, I've heard that their minor league system is really good, and they're wanting to bring up some players from there, saying that they've got new guys that are going to come up in the next, little bit to a couple years that are going to be awesome.
Well, they have been taking a look at some other clubs and what some other clubs have done to lock in young players for long term.
Right.
And they said in an interview a couple of nights ago that the depth is very promising and that they're they were touting that they're going to be making some moves that will make the winning more, give it more longevity, if you will.
Right.
So, but then they ran into the Rays.
Your favorite American League team.
I am really digging the Rays, and not just because they're winning. I don't want to be a bandwagon jumper owner, but I guess I kind of have. I've been looking for an American League team for years, and I've been watching the Rays every night. After I watch the Cubs every
night. Every night. The Rays, the Dodgers, and the Cubs.
Every day. And the Rays are just playing incredible at an undeniable pace. They're 29-8 this year.
And that is great.
Now, Tuesday night, they did lose 4-2 to the Orioles. But they have went 7-3 in their last 10 games.
Right. So they're winning a whole lot more than they're losing.
Absolutely. And but tonight versus the Orioles, look for them to use their bullpen a lot more because of the way the pitching matched up. It's going to be a bullpen game.
Okay. I always think those are fun.
So, Ohtani has joined Babe Ruth as the only 2 players to have 500 strikeouts and 100 home runs.
Yes, I heard about that the other day. That is wonderful. You know me, Babe Ruth. Oh, you got to love Babe Ruth.
Got to love the Babe. Definitely got to love the Babe.
Of course, with me, my love for Babe Ruth came from The Sandlot, the wonderful movie where I was younger and I was playing softball, and I loved softball. That was the one sport that I truly flourished at. And I watched that movie and I started asking my dad about Babe Ruth.
Right.
And I started learning more and more, and he was an incredible player. It was great. And his personal life was even more interesting.
Outrageous.
Yes. So, that is wonderful for Ohtani. I mean, to be in that kind of company That is just amazing.
Well, he's actually in a league all to himself because Tuesday night versus the Astros, Ohtani got his 502nd strikeout and surpassed
Babe Ruth, yeah.
So he's actually got more strikeouts than anybody while still hitting 100 home runs.
Yep.
I mean, that's amazing.
Well, and I've always said, why aren't, the designated hitter, okay, whatever, but if you're going to play baseball, shouldn't you learn how to hit? Why don't more pitchers hit? I know they're scared of injuries, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But if you're going to play baseball, you should at least know how to bat.
Well, I agree. I mean, over the years, the pitchers, little by little by little, got worse. And that's just because they don't dedicate any time. Now, back when I was a kid, you had Nolan Ryan could hit. Mm-hmm. You had Fernando Valenzuela could hit. Mm-hmm. You had a few pitchers that could hit. Now, nothing like Ohtani. I mean, Ohtani hits like a normal, everyday infield outfielder.
Well, I remember, we could always rely on John Lester to hit that 1 or 2 home runs a year.
Right.
And you always waited with anticipation every time he got up to the plate. Is this going to be the one? But I always thought it was lazy of the pitchers.
Well, it sort of is, but I guess the organization wants to protect the $1 million arm.
Protect the arm.
And don't put them in a situation where they could get hurt and not be able to pitch because they got hit by a pitch.
Right.
So that's kind of understandable. Of course, we don't have to deal with any of this anymore because the designated hitter rule.
Right.
And only surpassed by the Ohtani rule, which is the exception to the rule. So, but I got to see Ohtani play in Atlanta last season.
We both did.
Yeah, and he was great.
Yeah.
He was great right up until he wasn't.
Exactly.
And then in about the 6th inning, they really put a shellacking on him. But
he got booed.
He did, and it was nice to be able to see a future legend or current legend or however you want to describe.
At that time, we weren't sure which way he was going to go.
Right.
And then when they booed him, we thought, oh no, is this the beginning of the end? And it wasn't.
Right.
Obviously.
I mean, he's an incredible player, and I'm so privileged to have gotten to see him live.
And I respect him. He's tried really hard. He's worked really hard to get where he's at.
Oh, absolutely.
All these guys do. They all work extremely hard.
Yes, they do. I mean, they put it in every day. I mean, we'll talk about the Cubs here in a little bit, but Christopher Morel,
yes,
really works hard.
Yeah, let's wait on him. But a lot of people are like, oh well, they get paid millions of dollars to just have fun, and I've always wondered at what point does it just become a job to them? And if it gets to that point, is that their beginning of their end? But it's a job. It's their job. And we all have to work at some point in our lives. And you get bored with the job from time to time, or you don't feel like going, or you're just having a bad day.
Right.
And you still have to work.
Yes.
So I wonder a lot, at what point does baseball become the job for them?
Well, I can speak from my experience, not with baseball, but I don't know if our listeners know this or not, but I used to be a professional wrestler. I was a professional wrestler for 30 years. And at about the 14-year mark, I had a situation where I was in a wrestling match and everything was going as planned, and it was a great match. I was wrestling a guy named Val Venus and a guy named Lash LaRue, and pretty big names, and everything was going very, very well, and I realized it was going too well. that it wasn't fun anymore, that I was going
Right.
through the mechanics of it,
You're going through the motions.
through the motions, and that's when I realized, wow, this is my job, and and I continued on for decades after that, but it never was the
Sounds like
same.
it was your 30 years, 14 years is right about your halfway mark.
Right.
So maybe about the halfway mark, you start realizing this is a job. This is something I have to get up every day, go to the gym, go through training, go through practice, go through, whatever. And it's got to become monotonous at some point.
It does. I mean, and that's why, professional sports have an off season. Wrestling doesn't. That's more entertainment. And I'm going to get off the wrestling. I'm not going to talk
Right.
about that.
No.
But, that's why they have off seasons, to let the
Right.
body heal, but also let the mind heal.
Right. You can't do that kind of stuff year round. That would be too much on the body.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's too much for wrestlers.
Right. It is.
But I would say, to make your original point, that there has to be a balance between, yes, you're playing a kid's game and it's fun, but it's also work and how I feed my family.
Exactly.
And that's got to be a slippery slope to take care of. And that might be some people's problems when they get older, that they don't have it as much, like a Max Scherzer. Mm-hmm. They're having to keep up with younger kids.
Right.
And it might not be as fun, and it might be more work and for them, and be a little more taxing.
Yes. And I worry about my Kyle Hendricks.
Right.
He's older now. We've got all these new people coming up. He's hurt. I think he's coming back this week.
He's been in AAA Iowa, and he's been pitching a couple of games down there. Started with just pitching, batting practice and a bullpen workout and all that, but he actually got into some games down there. I think he's pitching on average around 5 innings, just a couple of times, not very much. I don't know for sure, but I believe they mentioned 5 innings in the last workout that he had. So he's coming along quite nicely, and I look for him to be back up soon.
Well, I just worry about these older pitchers because players, period.
Right.
Let's get off the pitching and players, period. We've got so many young guys coming up, and do these older players get worried with these new rules, these new guys? We might see an exodus of the older players soon.
Oh, yes, an evolution of the game with these new rules. And that might be by design also. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any facts to support this.
Right.
But the game has evolved this season. And the players are evolving, and they're having to adapt, and they're becoming better. And in any sport, in any way of life, you've got
to adapt or you fall by the wayside.
Exactly. And I think we are going to see some retirements because of these new rules, and that goes to pitchers. It's definitely going to shorten some of their game for the older ones. However, the flip side of that is that for the younger ones who come up through the minor leagues with it, they'll definitely be extending their career.
They won't be having a problem.
No.
Because it's been there. Okay, kids with computers nowadays, a computer is in their face almost 24/7.
Right.
Because you've got the phone. Mommy and Daddy have the phones and the iPads and so TVs are computers now. So they've had them all their life. So they don't know how to live without it. So some of these baseball players are not going to know how to live without the clock in a few years, or not going to know how to live without the bigger bases. And I mean, it's just going to become second nature. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the older people are going to have to learn, or they're going to fall by the wayside.
Right, and I think that that's what is getting to Max Scherzer is
Absolutely.
he's not ready to say
I totally agree.
I can't compete, and history right now is showing that he can.
Well, it goes back to what I was talking about last week, his attitude,
Right,
his personality.
right.
He's a very competitive guy, very passionate, and he doesn't want to give it up yet, but he can't hang in there either. So, that's a tough place to be.
It is a tough
I would
place to
not want to be in that man's mind.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Not at
I have
all.
enough trouble being in my mind.
You ain't kidding.
All right, let's move on to the LA Dodgers. They have finally seemed to found the combination that is working. They have taken the last 4 series that they've been in, 2 series on the road. They would lose the first game in the 2 series on the road, but would come back to take the next games. So they're dealing with loss very well.
Yeah, the Dodgers have always done that, dealt with loss well. And they always come back stronger. They don't give up.
Right.
I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
They don't go, oh, we're losing. We're never going to get back on top. We just give up. They're not like that. They just keep pushing through.
Well, we had said in past weeks on this show that they needed to find a way to win. Well, they have found a way to win. They've got the long ball, which has always been working, and they found the small ball.
I'm glad they found the small ball.
Absolutely. I mean, they are coming together as a team. And today, Kershaw picked up another win in the 8-1 defeat of the Brewers, your favorite team.
Oh, the sewers.
But they look very good. They got the run support. That's another thing is they are really producing the runs to help the pitchers out.
Right, and you have to. Not only do we have to have good pitchers and, don't let people hit or get hits, but the offense has to help out that pitcher. That we need more offense in some of these teams.
Yeah, they need
you've got to have it running on all cylinders. The pitching needs to be good while the offense is helping out the pitching, while the defense helps out the pitching. Everybody's got to help out that pitcher.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's got to come together as one cohesive unit. The pitcher cannot be there solely and pitch great and not have any run support.
Right.
And that's where we're moving on to the Chicago Cubs because that's exactly what is going on with the Cubs.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I am a lot frustrated this week. I watch the Cubs every day, and 9 out of the last 10 games they have lost by 1 or 2 runs. They're just not putting
They're
up.
tough losses. They're such tough losses when you do really well, especially if you're leading the whole game and then you just lose it by 1.
I mean, it's very, very frustrating. I mean, it's got to be frustrating for them. It's frustrating for me as a fan that they were getting the bases loaded past the 6th inning and they just can't capitalize.
Right.
Or they're in extra innings and they keep tying it up and and
then it just gives out.
Eventually, like the balk the other day.
Oh, that made me so mad.
I mean, we're in
I
extra.
hate the balk. First of all, there's no true definition of the balk.
Well, real quick, what we're talking about is that the Cubs were playing the Cardinals the other night, and it was in extra innings, and they balked, and the winning run came across the plate.
Yes. And that was, for it to have came down to a balk, that really upset me because, like I was saying, there's really no true definition of a balk, and I've never understood it because every time I've seen a balk called, I never saw the pitcher move.
Right.
So what What the hell? What is a balk? Please, somebody tell me.
Well, let's take a look here and see what the rule book actually says. I'm looking it up here on the Google machine.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, it's like if they twitch their leg, or if, God forbid, their head moves the wrong way, or it's a balk. And these umpires they pick and choose their times to call it.
It is the made by a pitcher, obviously, an illegal motion penalized by the advancement of base runners. So the rule is an illegal motion. Well,
What's an illegal motion?
right. So then it's up for interpretation on
The umpire.
coming set.
By the umpire, and the umpire picks and chooses when he's going to use it and when he's not.
Absolutely.
And that makes the game being determined by the umpire.
Yes, it does. And that is so frustrating when it is not on the field, like in this instance that we're speaking about. It took the guys out of play and a win on a technicality. Yes.
And these umpires think they're God. I have no love for umpires. Anybody that knows me knows that. They make some decisions sometimes that just aren't right. There should be somebody watching the umpires.
There should be, and they're not consistent. I mean, there are some good umpires out there.
Yeah, there are, but I hate inconsistency.
Yeah, so the strike zone sometimes with these umpires are not consistent for both teams, and it it's got to be just so frustrating to the batters.
Well, yeah, I mean, if the umpire calls a ball that's slightly outside a strike, then you're scared to death to let a ball go by.
Right. Suzuki is bad for that. That he'll get a bad call, which, by the way, he's the second most bad calls of any player in Major League Baseball.
Oh, you're kidding me.
That's right. Yeah, there's some other guy ahead of him. I can't remember who it is. It might be
like they're picking on him.
Might be Paul Goldschmidt. I'm not sure.
Oh.
But Suzuki has the second most calls strikes that should have been balls.
That's horrible, because that poor little guy, he takes everything so personally anyway.
He does. He takes everything.
He works so hard, and he's so hard on himself, and he beats himself up all the time, and it breaks my heart.
I know, and he's a great player.
He is a great player.
I'm so happy he's on our team.
Yes, I am too.
But let's talk about Christopher Morel. He's finally been brought back up. We talked last week how great he was doing, and he's brought back up. He's already hit a home run.
I know. I was half asleep because I came home from work tired, but I heard it, and I was so happy for him. He's such a happy, great guy. And like we talked about on the last podcast, we saw him here in Tennessee at the Smokies. And he never does not have a smile on his face.
Very happy.
I have never seen such a happier person. I mean, it makes me wonder, though, how naive he is in a way.
Right.
Because he reminds me of Sue off of the show The Middle.
Okay.
He's just always so happy and so just positive. Yes, he's always so positive, and it makes me wonder, in bad situations, how naive he is, though.
Right. Well, I mean, he's an adult. I'm sure.
I know, but I'm just saying I can't wait to see the evolution of this guy.
When he came back up, he came out for batting practice, and he shook everybody's hands and gave them hugs.
Of course.
Including the security people.
Yes.
That he was back at Wrigley, and he wanted to give them hugs, and he did. And that's
he just
great.
likes to hug everybody.
That's it. I mean, that's incredible. He was just so happy to be back. I mean, can you imagine being that security guy?
I want to go off on a tangent in a little bit about Wilson Contreras, but when he saw Wilson, he jumped up and wrapped his legs around Wilson.
Yeah.
He was so happy to see him.
He was very happy to see him. Well, I'm glad you brought up Wilson Contreras because
Yes.
I was getting ready to tell
The
you about
greatest heel in this era of baseball.
He made his return to Wrigley Field the other night and for the Cardinals versus the Cubs, and he was looking to get some cheers, and he got some cheers
At first.
and then he got pure boos.
Yes, and he loved every minute of
He
it.
did, and he gestured for the crowd to give him more, to bring him more.
Yes.
So it was said that in articles and also by JD that it was like a wrestling villain.
Yes.
So I think one of the articles said the biggest heel in baseball.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He said that if he wasn't getting booed, then he wasn't doing his job right. But he did say, I mean, I was upset with him because he did say that the Cardinals were a better institution than the Cubs by far, and that he wished he would have went with them sooner. Now, before that, I was happy for him because, I felt like, okay, that's the natural progression of things. I always said that he was getting better than Yadier Molina. And so he took over Yachty's spot.
Right.
So I was happy for him. He was going to do great, and I was hoping he'd break all of Yachty's records and just blow him out of the water.
Right.
And then he had to open his mouth about the Cubs.
Right.
And that made me mad, but at the same time, now I'm wondering if he didn't do it on purpose.
Well, he might have done it on purpose to get over with his new team and his new teammates. They might have been razzing him a little bit behind the scenes, but also to show that he's committed to St. Louis and their organization.
Right.
I mean, I think he could have said it differently and better.
Right.
But who knows? But he's making it work for him for sure.
He definitely made it work for him.
But the Cubs, the pitching's been really good with Steele and Stroman.
Offense.
It's the offense. They're just
And they
not
have
producing.
it. I just don't know why they haven't caught fire yet.
Exactly. And it's a one or two guy a game, hitting
Right.
the
We
home
need
run.
everybody.
hitting on all cylinders and producing more than one run.
Right.
So, I mean, the Cubs are still, I think they're like 2 or 3 games out of first place. It's a tough division.
It's a very tough
So we're
division.
still in it. I mean, it's still
Pirates
early.
still number one.
Yes, we're still in it, and it's still early, but we need to start doing something.
Producing.
Losing 9 out of 10.
Yeah, that's horrible.
You can't win championships like that.
No, you can't, and it worries me.
Especially when you got the Dodgers who are in a different division but are taking 4 series straight. You got teams out there like Atlanta who are playing great. I mean, they really need to play better and produce more runs. I mean,
Yes.
because if the pitcher's giving up 1 run or 2 runs, I mean, I know it's elementary to say, well, then you're going to have to score 2 or 3.
Yeah,
But they really need to score 2 or 3.
exactly.
So we will see what goes on with the Cubs. We're very excited for baseball this week coming up. We got the Rays, we've got the Dodgers, we've got the Cubs. We want to thank you for joining us this week. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and find us on Twitter and the web at Married with Baseball. You can follow Ashley on Twitter at TNAshes77. You can follow myself, Brian Logan, on Twitter at Logan's World Bry. And today in Extra Innings, we're going to be talking about something that I've never talked about before publicly. We're going to talk about autism and me being on the spectrum. So if you are interested in listening to that, go on over to our Patreon. You can click the star button on our website, which is marriedwithbaseball.com, and that'll take you to the Patreon, and you can listen to our Extra Innings talking about autism and me being on the spectrum. So Any last words this week?
We'll see you at the ballpark.
See you at the ballpark.